Yamunatiravanachari Ravana Yamunatiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayam Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivajgacharya Asto Tarasarshi Śrīmad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki Grantaraj Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ki Nitai Gaura Premanandi Om Ishwaraya Krishna Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we're reading from Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Canto 9, which is entitled Liberation. Chapter 4, Ambarish Maharaj offended by Durvasa Muni. Text number 2. And we'll be reading up to text number 17, I think. No? Up to text 16, 15 and 16 at least. Brataro Bhankta Kimahyam Bhajama Pitaram Tava Tvam Mamaryas Tata Bankshu Ma Putrakatad Adritaha Brataro Bhankta Kimahyam Bhajama Pitaram Tava Tvam Mamaryas Tata Bankshu Ma Putrakatad Adritaha Brataro Bhankta Kimahyam Bhajama Pitaram Tava Tvam Mamaryas Tata Bankshur Ma Putrakatadadritha Prataro Bhankta Kimayam Bhajama Pitaram Tava Tam Amaryas Tata Bangshu Ma Putra Katadadritaha. Prataro Bhankta Kimahyam Bhajama Pitaram Tava Tvam Maryastata Bhankshur Ma Putraka Tadadritaha Bhrataro Bhankta Kimayam Bhajama Pitaram Tava Tvam Maryastata Bhankshur Ma Putraka Tadadritaha Bhrataro Bhankta Kimayam Bhajaram Pitaram Tava Tvam Maryastata Bhankshur Ma Putraka Tadadritaha Bhrataro Bhankta Kimayam Bhajama Pitaram Tava Tvam Maryastata Bhankshur Ma Putraka Tadadritaha. Ladies? Bhrataro Ayam Bhajama Pitaram Tava Tvam Maryastata Bhankshur Ma Putraka Tadadritaha Bhrataro Bhankta Kimayam Bhajama Pitaram Tava Tvam Maryastata Bhankshur Ma Putraka Tadadritaha. Bhrataraha. Oh, my brothers. Abhankta. Have you given as the share of our father's property? Kim. What? Mahyam. Unto me. Bhajama. Bhajama. We allot. Pitaram. The Father himself. Tava. As your share. Tvam. You. Mama. Unto me. Aryaha. My elder brothers. Tata. Oh, my father. Abhankshu. Having given the share. Or have given the share. Ma. Do not. Putraka. Oh, my dear son. Tat. To this statement. Adritaha. Give any importance. Nabhaga inquired, my dear brothers, what have you given to me as my share of your father's property? His elder brothers answered, we have kept our father as your share. But when Nabhaga went to his father and said, my dear father, my elder brothers have given you as my share of property, the father replied, my dear son, do not rely upon their cheating words. I am not your property. What is going on here? What is going on? Okay, so he was in the Gurukul for some time. And he came home and asked for his share of the property, which his brothers were enjoying, right? And they said, your father is your share, right? Now by this stage his father's probably pretty old, we could assume, right? But his father's obviously not stupid. Nabhaga's father said, so let's read on, all the descendants of Angira are now going to perform a great sacrifice, but although they are very intelligent, on every sixth day they will be bewildered in performing sacrifice and will make mistakes in their daily duties. Oh, there is a purport here. Purport. Nabhaga was very simple-hearted. Therefore, when he went to his father, the father, in compassion for his son, suggested that as a means of livelihood, Nabhaga could go to the descendants of Angira and take advantage of their misgivings in performing yajna. Okay. I think we'll read on. Is that okay? Let's find out what's actually going on here. Translation. Nabhaga's father continued, go to those great souls and describe 2 Vedic hymns pertaining to Vaishvadeva. Let's see if there's an explanation here as to who Vaishvadeva is. Okay, who's Vaishvadeva? It's important to know who Vaishvadeva is, isn't it? So who is he? Hint, look at the word for word. What does it say? Who's Vaishvadeva? At least it says here the Supreme Personality of Godhead. What happened to your head? What was it? Ooh. Okay. Be careful. If it doesn't fall on you, make sure, if it falls, make sure it doesn't fall on Krishna at least. If it falls on us, it's okay. All right, Vaishvadeva. So, when the great sages have completed the sacrifice and are going to the heavenly planets, they will give you the remnants of the money they have received from the sacrifice. Therefore, go there immediately. Thus, Nabhaga acted exactly according to the advice of his father, and the great sages of the Angira dynasty gave him all their wealth and then went to the heavenly planets. Thereafter, while Nabhaga was accepting the riches, a black-looking person from the north came to him and said, all the wealth from this sacrificial arena belongs to me. Nabhaga then said, these riches belong to me. The great saintly persons have delivered them to me. When Nabhaga said this, the black-looking person replied, let us go to your father and ask him to settle our disagreement. In accordance with this, Nabhaga inquired from his father. Mobile phones off or on silent. The father of Nabhaga said, whatever the great sages sacrificed in the arena of the Daksha Yajna, they offer to Lord Shiva as his share. Therefore, everything in the sacrificial arena certainly belongs to Lord Shiva. Thereupon, after offering obeisances to Lord Shiva, Nabhaga said, O worshipable Lord, everything in this arena of sacrifice is yours. This is the assertion of my father. Now, with great respect, I bow my head before you, begging your mercy. Lord Shiva said, whatever your father has said is the truth, and you also are speaking the same truth. Therefore, I, who know the Vedic mantras, shall explain transcendental knowledge to you. Lord Shiva said, now you may take all the wealth remaining from the sacrifice, for I give it to you. After saying this, Lord Shiva, who is most adherent to the religious principles, disappeared from that place. If one hears and chants or remembers this narration in the morning and evening with great attention, he certainly becomes learned, experienced in understanding the Vedic hymns, and expert in self-realization. From Nabhaga, Maharaj Ambarish took birth. Maharaj Ambarish was an exalted devotee, celebrated for his great merits. Although he was cursed by an infallible Brahmana, the curse could not touch him. King Parikshit inquired, O great personality, who's Maharaj Parikshit inquiring from? Hands up if you know. Shubhya. Sukadeva Goswami, yes. And he's calling him, what is Maharaj Parikshit calling Sukadeva Goswami by the name of? You need to look at the verse. Not this verse. The verse, and you don't have a mobile phone. Okay, so Bhagavan Trotram Ichchami. So he's calling Sukadeva Goswami Bhagavan. Interesting, huh? Right? King Parikshit inquired, O great personality, Maharaj Ambarish was certainly most exalted and meritorious in character. Dhimataha, sober. I wish to hear about him. How surprising is it? How surprising it is that the curse of a Brahmana, which is insurmountable, could not act upon him. Right? Brahmanas are so powerful, and we've seen that in the beginning of this Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. Right? How the Brahmanas' curse obliged Maharaj Parikshit to face death, right, in 7 days. Okay, all right. So now we're up to the verse that has a purport, but not a very big purport. So let's see. If the purport's only storyline, then we'll continue on. Oh, there's some big purports coming up. Okay. Sukadeva Goswami said, Maharaj Ambarish, the most fortunate personality, Mahabhaga, Ambarisho Mahabhaga, achieved the rule of the entire world, consisting of 7 islands, and achieved inexhaustible, unlimited opulence and prosperity on earth. Although such a position is rarely obtained, Maharaj Ambarish did not care for it at all. For he knew very well that all such opulence will ultimately be destroyed. The king knew that any non-devotee who attains such opulence merges increasingly into material nature's mode of darkness. Purport. For a devotee, material opulence is insignificant, whereas for a non-devotee, material opulence is the cause of increasing bondage. For a devotee knows that anything material is temporary, whereas a non-devotee regards the temporary so-called happiness as everything and forgets the path of self-realization. Thus, for the non-devotee, material opulence is a disqualification for spiritual advancement. Om Jnana Timidandasya Jnana Sulakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmaye Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Tadati Svapadantikam Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripa Tamaham Bande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam. So Maharaj Ambarish is an emblem of, or an example of advancement in a devotee. In that even though he's in an extraordinarily powerful position as the king of the world, he's endowed with deep spiritual realization, deep spiritual understanding, right? And so is not bewildered by or attracted to, enamored by the wealth and the power that's at his disposal. And this is quite a unique position. To have that kind of influence and that kind of control and that kind of power gives one significant opportunities, especially for sense gratification. Right? In fact, people die in the pursuit of such a position. Right? They make it the focus of their existence to accumulate this kind of wealth and power. And sometimes, in the process of competing with others to accumulate this kind of power, they kill each other. But you can be sure that somebody like Ambarish Maharaj, who's a great devotee, is accepting this as the arrangement of providence. Right? And because of his deep spiritual learning, he's demonstrating these symptoms of detachment. Right? And that comes about as a result of, this is self-realization. It comes about as a result of, Krishna mentions in the Bhagavad Gita 269, right, that there are two types of people. Both who are intelligent, both who manifest and demonstrate symptoms of discrimination. Right? But two, the application of that intelligence and that discrimination is applied differently, which is really the symptom or the characteristic or what differentiates a devotee from somebody else. And Prabhupada uses the word, and in the translation, it's introspective, right? The introspective sage, which is a symptom of a devotee. The devotee looks within and discovers a whole universe of engagement and absorption, whereas the materialist looks without, what is it? Bahir nishringo hridaye nishringo, right? We sing that prayer every morning. What does that mean? Bahir nishringo hridaye nishringo. What does that mean? Does anybody, hands up if you know what that means? Bhakti Sir, what does it mean? Yes, the Lord's outside and inside. And we were discussing yesterday, the Lord's inside our heart, along with all of the spiritual world, right? There's a big, it's a big place, even though it's inside and hidden, apparently hidden. There's a realm of experience. Transcendental spiritual experience within the internal realm, right? Which is what the introspective sage is absorbed in and engaged with and meditates on, right? Whereas the materialistic persons are engaged in material pursuits in the external world, which is also fully absorbing. Right? And Krishna says, what is night for the materialistic person is a time of engagement for the introspective sage. Right? When people ask us, or when we tell them what time we got up, they're like, what? What are you doing up at that time of the day? You should be sleeping. Right? But the devotees are awake in a time of sleeping of the materialistic people. Right? And they're just dreaming about this and that and the other thing. Right? Do you dream? Hands up if you have dreams. Yeah. Do you take them seriously? Huh? No? Yes? No? No. 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 And a time of activity for the materialistic person is nighttime for the self-realized. Right? So we see here, Maharaj Ambarish is full of all opulence and power, which is what the materialistic person strives for, and yet he treats it with a degree of detachment. He's not attached to it. And so he's able to use it for the appropriate purposes. In other words, such a king uses that facility to benefit the citizens from a material perspective, yes, but also from the spiritual perspective. So we see, Prabhupada recommends for such a saintly king, then their responsibility is to see that everybody follows a structured and ordered society, why we have the Varnashram broad framework. And then that Varnashram system is meant to support a culture of devotion and a culture of introspection. Right? The citizens are meant to be introspective. In other words, certainly we have our, and it's interesting, you see in our morning program, we focus on introspection first and devotion. Right? It's what's called the ISKCON sandwich. Right? Do you know what the ISKCON sandwich is? What does the ISKCON sandwich start with? Morning program. But what's the morning program start with? Mangalati. Yeah. And then what tops off the ISKCON sandwich? Gora Arti. Yeah, that's right. We have an open sandwich mostly these days. It's also a type of sandwich, and important because with the introspective program, self-reflection, right? Looking inwards and looking especially for the faults, to remove them, right? That's what the Bhagavad Gita is about, pretty much. Prabhupada says the Bhagavad Gita is presented by Krishna so that people can chalk out a path in life, right? Have a plan, right? And so where are we going? What is our plan? According to the Bhagavad Gita, we should have a plan. Right? Hands up, those of you who have a plan. Please raise your hands. 2 people. Okay, what are the rest of you doing? Huh? What are you doing? Plan or no plan? Or too humble to say? Or thinking about it? Right? Thinking about it. But it's interesting, isn't it? Prabhupada mentions, this is in the introduction to the Bhagavad Gita. We should chalk out a path in life. Right? That's why we chant Hare Krishna. Why do we spend so much time chanting Hare Krishna? Hands up. Who knows why they're chanting Hare Krishna? Please raise your hands. We've got a few. It takes time for people to absorb the instructions. Okay, all right. So, of those people who put their hands up, tell me why. Put your hands up again. Okay, Rasikendra, tell us why are you chanting Hare Krishna? Sorry, develop love of Krishna. Okay, all right. So that's the goal, isn't it? That's the goal. How are we going to get there? How are we going to get there? And that's what the Bhagavad Gita is about. It's about how to get from where we are now to where we want to go. And that's what is it? Prema Purmato Mahan or something like that. That's the goal of life, as described by Lord Chaitanya, is to achieve love of Godhead. Right? And we can see in the character of somebody like Maharaj Ambarish, he already has achieved that. He's achieved it. Right? And that's bewildering for the materialistic people, because the achievement is putting aside one's material needs or one's material propensities and working towards self-realization, self-cultivation, self-development. Right? That's the purpose of studying the Bhagavad Gita, is to become adept in putting aside those obstacles or those limitations that stop us from developing our relationship with Krishna. This is what the Bhagavad Gita is all about, right? And we study the Bhagavad Gita to develop that path or that course of those actions that bring us closer to Krishna. Because in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains what to pursue and what not to pursue. Isn't that right? Am I right? Am I right, Gopa? Yeah. This is why we study the Bhagavad Gita. And in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, and I can't remember the verse now. I remember, Adyantavanta kunteya na teshu ramate buddha. What's the first line? Matras? No. What's the first line? Yehi samspasaja boga dukkha yonaya evate. This is amazing. I learnt that verse maybe 40 years ago, maybe even longer. Just need a little bit of a bump. And it comes out eventually. If I've had a good night's sleep, then I can remember it. But very important verse, right? The Buddha, right? The intelligent. And Ambarish Maharaj is a symptom of Buddha, intelligence, right? And so his focus is not on material things, but on his service to Krishna. And of course that comes out later on and is the key to how he's able to withstand the curse of Durvasa Muni, which ordinarily, and which is why Maharaj Parikshit is quizzical, or, interested, and why he's inquiring. How is it? Not that he necessarily was thinking, oh, how can I resist the curse of the Brahmana? Rather, it's interesting to see that, that the tension, what could you call it? That dilemma, I guess. Maharaj Parikshit has accepted the curse of the Brahmana. Samika Rishi, isn't it? Right? What? Shringi. Oh, yeah, okay, that was his son. Yeah, Shringi. And he accepted the curse, right? But Maharaj Ambarish was cursed, but it didn't impact him. Right? So Maharaj Parikshit, very inquisitive. Ooh, interesting. How? And the how was more related to the who, right? Who was Maharaj Ambarish protected by? Right, because of his great devotion, he was protected by the Lord and the Lord's Sudarshan Chakra. So, there's that story of Sanatana Goswami who had a touchstone, right? And the touchstone being that whatever you touched it with, whatever metal you touched it with, it would turn into gold. Oh, who wouldn't want one of those? Huh? That sounds good. But where did he keep it? Where did he keep his touchstone? In the rubbish bin. Well, he didn't have a rubbish bin. But have you ever seen a rubbish tip in India? Huh? Ooh. One of my favourite sites in India was at Govardhan Hill. Where the shop wallahs that sell the samosas and the lassi, huh? And the kachoris. Really, the best kachoris in the world. In those shops there. So just near there, on the corner, where the road turns off and goes to Vrindavan. And there was a big pile of rubbish, stinky rubbish, right? And on top of the stinky pile of rubbish, have a guess what was sleeping there? The biggest hog in the planet. So, that's the kind of place where Sanatana Goswami kept his touchstone. Right? But somebody found out that Sanatana Goswami had a touchstone, so they wanted to get it from him. Right? But then when they found out that Sanatana Goswami was keeping the touchstone in the rubbish pile, in the smelly rubbish pit, I said, hang on, if he's keeping the touchstone in the rubbish pit, that means he's got something better somewhere else. I want to get that. Right? A very intelligent person. So that's the difference between the materialist and the devotee, right? The devotee is introspective, studies the Shastra especially for us, studies the Bhagavad Gita in order to differentiate between the material and the spiritual, with an understanding that the spiritual is far more valuable than any material pursuit. And why? Because that spiritual understanding can never be taken away. Right? Nihabi krama naso steep. Right? There is no loss or diminution in the pursuit of spiritual knowledge and spiritual advancement. Whereas the advancement of material possessions, of material influence, of material power is always limited and temporary. And so therefore Ambarish Maharaj demonstrated that even though he had all of the power and the influence sought after by the materialistic people, by anybody really, he was more satisfied by his spiritual and transcendental sitting. So this is a very oh, and it's interesting here. Prabhupada makes it, and there's a warning here actually. Right? A devotee knows that anything material is temporary. Right? Adyantavanta kunteya nateshu ramate buddha. It has an adi, beginning, and an anta, end. Right? And so the wise doesn't look for happiness in those things. So in comparison, or in contrast, a non-devotee regards the temporary so-called happiness as everything and forgets the path of self-realization, sees it as darkness. And it's interesting here, Prabhupada says, for the non-devotee, material opulence is a disqualification for spiritual advancement, because too much attachment, right? Too much attachment for material things, whereas a devotee is happy to abandon the pursuit of material prosperity, of material influence, of material power, for the more highly regarded and more deeply valued experiences that they have in their spiritual life. This is bewildering for people. You know, it's okay to get up early in the morning to pursue your material advancement, but the devotees get up early in the morning to pursue spiritual advancement and forgo material prosperity. The really bewildering thing is, for the materialists, is that the devotees become wealthy and influential just naturally, and as a consequence, even in the pursuit of their spiritual aspirations, they may become wealthy and opulent and influential, but they remain detached. They're not looking at it as an opportunity for sense gratification, but rather they use that in Krishna's service and manage those opulences or those facilities, like, Prabhupada gives the example, like the teller in the bank is counting money, but it's not their money. Right? So devotee doesn't see it as theirs, but rather, what is it? Idam Krishnaya, idam namama. This is a really important understanding for devotees. The cultivation of this understanding. Which has depth. Also, it's like we have some devotees who are quite wealthy, right? They have their businesses. Yet they use that opulence, if you like, in Krishna's service, and remain somewhat detached. We're not all great Paramahamsas like Sanatana and Rupa Goswami, but at least for this day and age, you can have opulence, but also be a devotee and cultivate that understanding of detachment and utility. We use it for Krishna's service. So this is a great example. Maharaj Ambarish is a wonderful example of advancement in Krishna consciousness for the householders. And there's a famous set of verses that describe Ambarish Maharaj coming up. Savai mana Krishna padara vindayo vachamsi vaikunta gunanuvana ve karo Hare mandira majanadishu. This is my favorite part of this verse. Karo Hare mandira. What did he do? What did he do? Huh? Well, yes. What does that mean? He cleaned. Yes. Adi. First he cleaned. Yeah. Karo Hare mandira. What does that mean? Karo Hari mandir. Don't know what that means? What's it? It's got something to do with the temple. What was he doing with the temple? Hey? Before he cleaned the temple, what was he doing? What's that? Loudly? I can't. No. What did he do? Karo Hare mandira. What was he doing? Huh? Opening the temple. No, he was walking to the temple. He was going to the temple. That's what it means. Hari mandir karo. Right? Like we have on the back of the truck. Horn karo. Right? What does that mean? What does horn karo mean? Huh? What was it? Who said that? Who said that? What? Horn please. Horn please. I didn't get the please bit. I'd be surprised if a truck driver knew the word please, but anyway. It means horn do. Right? Literally it means horn. Blow your horn. Right? I don't know about please. Right? Horn karo. So he was Hari Mandira karo. He was going to the temple. Right? And then at the temple he cleaned the temple. Yeah. So wonderful example. Ambarish Maharaj is a wonderful example of a devotee who is engaged in all the 9 items of devotional service, like we are. He's pretty much, the epitome of an ISKCON devotee. Right? Because I remember when I first in my first few years of devotional service, I would read the Bhagavad Gita trying to find the key. Where's the key, the secret key to opening up the door of bhakti? Huh? And then I discovered that there are 9 of them. Right? Oh no, it's so complicated. Huh? And so it's very interesting that the morning program pretty much helps us engage in all of the different items of devotional service, all of them. You can do one, right, and perfect your life, but how many of us can just do one activity in devotional service and that's it? How many of us? In this day and age. Not easy. Mind's all over the place. So plenty to engage us. Plenty. And certainly a lot of activity. And very interesting because this is the epitome of yoga practice. Yoga practice means to control the mind and the senses. Use the intelligence to distinguish between that which is material and that which is spiritual. And so we're given that opportunity in a whole range of activities, beginning from the moment we wake up till the time we go to bed. And so, and then the consequence of all of that is that a devotee, even though they may be very wealthy and opulent, and that's fine, but there's this degree of spiritual advancement that brings a person to detachment, right? Even though we may have material opulence, influence, power, if you like. The greater power for a devotee is, and the most valuable power is that ability to engage in devotional service and in that way then control the mind and the senses and automatically develop that detachment. In order to do that, we need to have a plan. Need to have a plan. And that's why we study the Bhagavad Gita. Studying the Bhagavad Gita gives us an opportunity to work out basically the do's and the don'ts. What do we do? What do we avoid? Yeah. Okay, does anybody have any comments or questions on any of these points?
You mentioned providence at the start of the class. When the providence, the word providence, when the Bhagavatam talks about providence, what exactly does it mean? Yeah. Providence. Providence. Yeah.
What does providence mean? Providence means fate. Fate. Or Krishna, right? Right? That it's Krishna's arrangement that, and this is something that Prabhu mentioned the other day, that the Pandavas are very saintly devotees, right? And yet were put through great difficulty and hardship. And they're the most pious persons, and yet were subject to so much cruelty by their cousins, right? And so the conclusion arrived at by Bhishmadev was that this could have only have happened by the arrangement of the Lord, right? But described as providence. But what we will do is we will ask what does providence mean? Ooh, this is good. Providence refers to the protective care and guidance provided by God or a higher power, often associated with divine foresight or intervention in the universe. Right? So, it's also the name of the capital city of Rhode Island. Yep. So, it's in other words, it's dictated to by higher powers or by God. Yep.
So it can mean by dictated by God, or can it also refer to karma?
Yes.
Many things.
Yes, because ultimately karma is determined
By God.
by powers.
Mm-hmm.
Why was it that Zach, what's your family name? Smith, that's what I thought. Why was it that Zach Smith was born, right, on whatever date, in whichever location, right? Glen Waverley, or where were you born? Yeah. Why? Why was I born in Ardrossan, South Australia, in 1955? Why? Who ordained that? Somebody ordained it. And why, this particular mother and father in this particular location with this particular set of circumstances, rich, poor, whatever. So that's ordained by a higher power. That's recognised in Bhagavatam, in the Bhagavad Gita. Yeah. Yes. Yes, your karma. And with the particular characteristics that you have, the intelligence, the height, width, all of those bits and pieces. Who's arranging that? Now, most people can't even see that, right? They see that all as happening by chance, right? No order in the universe, nothing. Just a big bang. Right? This is somewhat of a difference between an introspective person and just a gross materialist. Right? An introspective person sees, hang on a second, this is all happening by arrangement. Right? The sun is moving, we can predict, we know, the sun will rise at, hang on, what is it, 6:26 or something, tomorrow morning. We know that. The moon will rise at whatever time. And it's predetermined pretty much. So who's doing that? How come that's going on? Right? There's order and structure within the creation. So the introspective sage is thinking, who's arranging this? Who set this up? And the intelligent materialist says these days, well, actually, it isn't anything. But at some point, nothing exploded into something. Right? And the devotee is thinking, you crazy. You think we're crazy because we say that God is the source of everything. But where's this theory of everything came from nothing and exploded? And then out of that explosion we get all of this order. Huh? Whereas Prabhupada, Prabhupada makes the point, and others, the probability of order coming out of an explosion is highly unlikely. Right? Like, what's the example? The likelihood of getting this order and structure within the universe is about as likely as getting a page of the Webster's Dictionary out of an explosion in a print shop. It ain't going to happen. Huh? Yeah. So that's providence. Huh? Providence. It's it's orchestrated, organized, structured, purposeful. Purposeful, right? Purpose. That's what the Bhagavad Gita is for, is to tell us, here's your purpose. Sarva dharman parijatya mam ekam sharanam braja. That's our purpose. Yeah. Anything else? Saviour, anything to share after your momentous travel to India? Huh? Anything to share about the purpose of life? On a long journey. Tell us about providence.
We have certain free will, and also we are bound by our past karma. Yes.
Yeah. Prabhupada ki jai. Gaura Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Ambarish Maharaj ki jai. Hare Krishna.